no money. We owe $19 trillion, soon to be $21 trillion. We have no money. We can't pay it. They'll go crazy. After a week or so, they'll be okay with it. We saved 150. Okay? No, that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. On top of it, the deal is no good. How would you like to make a deal when during the deal, they're over in Iran celebrating in the streets, burning the American flag, and screaming about how stupid we are that this deal is so good? And we just keep going. But the greatest was today. And I hate to say it. I mean, I wish Obama didn't even say it. It must have been hard for him to say it. The man is incompetent, okay? He's incompetent. And it's sad to see. I mean, here's the deal that's a few weeks old, literally, and he's out there now saying he's upset with them. And anybody in their right mind would have known what he was getting into. He has no idea. He has no idea what's happening. And then today they talked to him about Trump, about nuclear weapons. He said, well, obviously he doesn't know about nuclear weapons. I know more about nuclear weapons than he'll ever know. I know what's right and wrong. So here's what happens. So I said, Japan. They said, now you have a maniac with nuclear weapons. He doesn't have a carrier system, but he's got nuclear weapons, right? And that's North Korea. And you have South Korea that's really, we're defending them. We're not getting what we should get. We're losing a fortune, but we're defending them. We're defending Japan. We're defending all these countries. So with Japan, I'd say, look, fellas, you got to pay up. We love you. You're our friends. We want to take care of you. That would be my first. And we might even walk once or twice, but that would be my first. And we'll also be prepared. Maybe it's better to let them defend themselves, because we cannot afford to defend all these people. The world, the whole world, the whole world. So ideally, they'll pay up, and they'll pay us a lot, and we'll defend them and all that stuff, because it's good. Because, nuclear is a big problem. I don't want to see nuclear all over the place, but already, if you think about it, North Korea, Pakistan, Russia, the United States, other places we don't even know about. ISIS probably wants it. We got to knock the hell out of them fast, by the way. We have no choice. We have no choice. ISIS, I didn't want to go into Iraq, but now with ISIS, you have no choice. Cutting off the heads and drowning people. This is a group of people that we have to beat them fast. Can you imagine we have a military? Can you imagine, I always say, because I was a big fan of General Douglas MacArthur. I was a big fan of General George Patton. These were tough cookies. These were smart, tough guys. These were Vince Lombardis of that world, okay? And these were tough. Could you imagine telling General Patton about ISIS that we can't beat ISIS? He'd have them knocked out in a week. I mean, literally, it would be over in a week. This is crazy. What's going on is crazy. And let me tell you, they get a nuke or they get a weapon of destruction. I don't even want to say thing here. They get a weapon of mass destruction. They wouldn't even think about it. They wouldn't even think about it. We got to knock them off fast. We can't play games. We can't play games. Because the single biggest problem we have is nuclear. The single biggest problem this world has, frankly, is nuclear. This is no more little, we're going to shoot. We have an army, 2 different uniforms. They have their M1 rifles and they're shooting each other. We're not in that anymore. We're into weapons of such unbelievable power. You look at Hiroshima and times 1,000, okay, times 1,000. So we can't play games anymore. If it weren't for that, I would have said, get the hell out of there. What difference does it make? Let them go shoot each other. Because, frankly, what's going on over there is disgraceful, but we can't allow this to happen. And, I don't know if you know this story, but they cut the Christians' heads off, and they cut others. But if you're Christian, boom, your head comes off. And if you are a Christian from Syria, this is during the old days, 5 years ago. If you were a Christian from Syria, you couldn't get into this country. It was almost impossible. If you were a Muslim from Syria, no problem. It was one of the easiest places to come into the United States. If you were Muslim from Syria, but if you were a Christian from Syria, and they're the ones that needed the protection, much more so, you couldn't get into this country. So you think maybe something's going on that's not so good? All right? It's not so good? So I talked about Japan. And I talked about many aspects of it. I talked about the business aspect. I talked about the fact that we're tired of subsidizing all these countries all over the world. I talked about the fact that Saudi Arabia just cannot do this to us anymore. Don't forget, if we left Saudi Arabia, it would be a terrible thing would happen to them. Be very fast. Nobody's going to attack them now because we're protecting them. Now here's what will happen, and they're great negotiators too. If we left, we'd say, you got to pay, which is a fortune, by the way. You got to pay. It doesn't matter. They have so much money. They have funds that are so big, they don't know what to do with all their money. I know. Their funds are the biggest funds among the biggest funds in the world. They have so much money. Money is the thing they don't worry about. Money and oil. What they worry about is how long will they keep it, okay? So what you do is you negotiate. You're going to leave. You're going to leave. You have to be prepared to leave. Otherwise, you can't make a good deal. See, we're not prepared to leave. We weren't prepared to leave the negotiations with Iran. If Kerry would have gotten up and said, we're leaving, and been tough, we would have made a much better deal. Much better deal. I mean, we made one of the worst deals ever. Basically, they got $150 billion, and that's it. And they'll have nuclear weapons and everything else. And, you know, it's so bad. So we have to be prepared to leave. We have to be prepared to leave Japan. We have to say, I'm sorry, we can't do that deal. And it's possible we won't get back. And it's possible they will arm, and they will then, you know, have to take this guy, and they'll have to deal with him. We'll have to deal with him. Okay? Is that so bad? Now, ideally, that doesn't happen. Ideally, they're going to pay. And they're going to pay a lot. And we'll be good, because I don't love them arming. But, you know, there's a point at which we just can't do it. When our infrastructure is dying, when our country's dying, when our airports are like hell. I go to Qatar. I go to Dubai. You go to China, different places. You go to places. They have airports the likes of which you've never, ever, ever, ever seen. Then I land at LaGuardia. There are potholes all over the place. The places like a third world airport. Or Kennedy. Or LAX. Or Newark. You look at these airports. They're like from a different time. It's like a time warp. They're third world. But you go to some of these, my pilot lands at Dubai. He said, oh, Mr. Trump, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. The runway's twice as long as anything he's ever, it's like a piece of glass. And we land at LaGuardia. What's wrong? Are we okay? We're stupid. We have stupid people leading our country. So what I said, I talked about the economics of it. I talked about this. I also said I'd rather not see Japan armed, but if they have to, that's okay. You always have to be prepared for that. And there's a possibility they would be able to arm because we may leave, because we just can't afford to be the policeman of the world and lose all of this tremendous amount of money. And it's possible that we're going to have to let NATO go because, you know, nobody's paying up. I mean, when we're paying and nobody else is really paying, a couple of countries are, but nobody else is really paying, you feel like the jerk. One of the things I do early on, I'd call up all of those countries. I'd either get myself, Carl Icahn, or somebody else that's very good at this stuff, okay? I'd call them up and say, fellas, you haven't paid for years. Give us the money. We'll get the hell out. Get out. You haven't paid for years. They have agreements. They have agreements. It's all agreements. And they haven't paid for years. I'd say, you got to pay us or get out. You're out, out, out. And I'll be nice to them. I'll be a little softer than that. I'll say, I'm sorry, but you're no longer NATO. And maybe NATO will dissolve. And that's okay. Not the worst thing in the world. But I'm telling you, NATO experts are saying, this guy Trump has got something. They study it. They're so close to the situation that they never thought that it's obsolete. They're so close that they never realized that all these people don't pay. And that we're like the big, stupid sucker that's paying for NATO. And we're paying for the United Nations. We're paying for the United Nations. You know, many countries don't pay for the United Nations. They come in, they don't pay their bills, the same thing. Because they think we're stupid. And that's the end. How often do you see the United Nations settle anything? You don't see them ever. I mean, things are settled. You know, it used to be where the United Nations would be involved. They're not really involved anymore. Do they ever settle anything? It's like, you know what it's like? It's a political club. I could tell you so many stories. I would have built their building for billions of dollars less money. I told them, when they renovated the United Nations, I was before the United States Senate, and I told them that I would build that building for billions less. And they said, no, we want to build it ourselves. Not only did it cost more, but it cost much more than even they said. And they said, well, but what would be the difference? I said, for billions of less, and it will be much better. I'll use marble, you're going to use linoleum. I really mean it, too. They didn't have any idea what they were doing. And they're thieves and crooks and, thing costs billions of dollars. To renovate a building costs billions. How many guys are in the real estate business or construction, right? You are. You are? Wow. Oh, I've never seen a real estate person that looked like that. Very good. Beautiful. So I would have saved them billions. They don't want it. Senator Sessions remembered the meeting we had years ago at the United Nations, 6, 7 years ago. I built a building across the street for $360. Everyone's now looking over there trying. See that? You'll be famous. But I built a building for $360 million right across the street from the United Nations, and the ambassador from Sweden called and he said, "How could your building 92 stories? How could your building cost $360 and we're spending billions to renovate a building that's 35 stories tall?" I say, well, number one, lack of knowledge. Number two, everyone's a crook over there. They made a fortune. He said, but we're going to spend $1.5 billion. He said to me, we're going to spend $1.5 billion. I said, no, you're not going to spend. You're going to spend $3 or $4 billion by the time they finish with you. And I was right. I'm really good at this stuff, okay? It costs billions, $3.5, $4 billion. It costs so much money, and it was such a bad job. Such a bad job. They used floors, they used terrazzo. Really, just a terrible, terrible, terrible job. Somebody made so much money. Somebody made so much. It's so sad. And we pay largely the bills. So the United Nations is another one. And there are so many others. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to bring our jobs back. I'm going to bring them back to Wisconsin. I'm going to bring our jobs back. I'm not going to let our companies leave. And I tell the story. Carrier I tell all the time. I love the Carrier story because it's so obvious. 2 months ago, they announced they're leaving the United States. They're moving to Mexico. I said, oh, that's all right. Moving to Mexico. Just like that. 1,400 people gone. Great jobs. They did a great job for 30 years. They did a great job making air conditioners, these people. Now they're wiped out. So the conservative dopes, the guys from the National Review and these dopey people, they think, oh, we're conservative. Well, I'm more conservative than them on virtually every subject. But on trade, I'm a free trader. But you can only be a free trader if your leaders are smart. If your leaders are stupid, you can't be a free trader because they're going to, do numbers on us. So Carrier's leaving. So Carrier said they're moving to Mexico. Oh, that's great. So I tell the story all the time. I call up Carrier. I say, listen, here's the story, meaning I or one of my people, that I have all the best people, right? I call up, say, Mr. President, and my wife wouldn't let me call Carrier because she'd say it's not presidential. I'm not supposed to be calling as president an air conditioning company. But I'll do it anyway. It's so easy. It's just 5 minutes, darling. I love doing it. I love it. And I said to him, listen, good luck with your plant. I hope you do really well. I hope you sell lots of air conditioners. But now we have a real border. We have a real border. And every air conditioner that comes into the United States, you're going to pay a 35% tax on that air conditioner. Okay? And because I'm not Ted Cruz, who's controlled by his lobbyists and his special interests, and they'll find the lobbyist that says Cruz. It's blazoned into his forehead, the lobbyist. It'll say Cruz. In other words, he takes care of Cruz. Another one takes care of Hillary. Another one takes care of Kasich. Another one takes, that's what it is, folks. These are people. They're really smart, really good. They raise millions of dollars for these guys. Look at their PACs. They have all this money. Their PACs. I put up my own money. It's so stupid. I don't think I get any credit for it. Really. I feel so stupid. My whole life, I've taken, I keep taking. And now I'm telling people they want to give you $10 million. One guy, Donald, I want to give you $10 million. I say, this is so foreign to me. It's like, I say, I can't take it. He goes, what? He said, of course you can take it. I said, I can't. Another guy wants to give me $5. I'm turning down all this money. All of this money. And my whole life has been the opposite. I take. And I say it. I take. I keep taking. But now I'm going to take for you. I'm going to take for the United States. I'm going to take. But these lobbyists have total control over these people. And they'll go to Cruz and they'll say, no, you have to do this, you have to do that. So if Cruz is president, number one, he wouldn't make the call because it's something from even making the call, because it would never happen. With me,